Hello everybody and welcome to another Avonic webinar. Good to see so many of you join today. We're going to be talking about streaming applications and we're going to be doing that together with our friends at Roland Pro AV, who are our joint hosts today. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat window. Today we're going to be talking about streaming applications in the Pro AV space, an example in the background here. And I'm joined today by Morten Rasmussen, the EU product manager for Roland Professional AV. Morten, good that you are joining and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Morten, where are you based? I kind of just based on your last name, I can kind of guess it's somewhere north, but where exactly?
It's a little bit north. It's in Copenhagen, Denmark.
In Copenhagen, Denmark.
So,
okay. Thank you for joining. Really appreciate that because we've seen some exciting developments on your end for PTZ control in combination with Avonic cameras. So today we're going to be trying to clarify that a little bit and to try to explain more about that. So we'll be back with you in just a few minutes to take a look at what you can share with us about the vision that Roland Pro AV has for applications with PTZ cameras. So we'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
Before we go to that, just a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, we're using the Demio platform today as a webinar platform. If you're logged in, of course, you'll see the chat window on the right side of your screen. Please feel free to put any questions you have on there. We have people from Roland and from Avonic monitoring the chat, and we're going to be trying to answer all your questions when they come in. If there's any questions that we cannot answer, of course, we will return back to you after this webinar with the answers to those questions. Just before we start, if you're not familiar with Avonic, we are a Dutch-based company founded about 13 years ago. Our background is in AV distribution and we are a manufacturer of PTZ and fixed cameras for applications such as video conferencing, churches, live event registration, city councils, all those kind of things. So PTZ and fixed cameras is what we do. We control product design, manufacturing, warehouse, sales, and of course have a full support team at your disposal. Our focus really is Pro AV installations, which means everything that you're basically mounting to the wall or to the ceiling, and that is where the link also is with the Roland Pro AV. Currently, we have distribution in about 30 countries worldwide, so definitely somewhere close to you, you can get information about us and purchase our products. Today, we're going to be talking about streaming solutions, and in these days, this time and age, which is a special time, of course, streaming is more important than ever. We're going to be talking about the applications, so typical streaming applications. We're going to be talking about the Avonic products that we sell a lot for these applications, and also we're going to be looking in how do you build streaming applications for your customers. So how do you allow them to go live on YouTube, Facebook Live, or dedicated streaming platforms. Then we're going to go over to Morten's presentation, which is going to focus on the Roland solutions, initially about the V60 HD, but also some other firmware updates Roland is going to be introducing in the next couple of months to include even more control options to their products. Then I'm going to come back to you with a little bit of takeaway points, and we're also going to be talking about some upcoming webinars we have here at Avonic. But before we get started, I think it's always good to look at applications, so typical applications for streaming. Think about live events, so anything that is live, could be theater, could be concerts, anything like that. Education, more and more streaming, lecture capture or live streaming is going on in education. Not only higher education universities, now of course also primary schools and middle schools. Conferencing, so large conferencing has always been a big market for streaming solutions for basically openness of democracy, so showing how decisions are being made. An upcoming market, one that we have been kind of dealing with for a couple of months now, is esports. So online sports where basically e-games are being played. This is a vastly growing market worldwide and a very interesting market to follow. And also a market where a Roland and Avonic combination would actually fit very well. The other thing is also the other application is of course webinars, webcasting. Is this a webinar or a webcast? There's a lot of terminology for that. Webcasting made in the studio requires video switching, requires audio switching, and requires remote controllable cameras. So also a very good application for Roland and Avonic. A big market right now is house of worship. Of course, they are now limited in the number of people that can actually be inside of a church or inside of a mosque. This means that there's a lot of demand for streaming applications for these type of organizations. Just kind of to look at Avonic, so what do we have for the streaming market? Of course, primarily our PTZ camera line, the CM70 line, just recently introduced, beginning of this year. We really focus on integratability, so to make sure that we have a lot of connectivity inside of these cameras and a lot of flexibility so that they are applicable for a lot of different rooms, different venues, this also means that we have 12, 20 and 30 times zoom inside of this product range. We have, of course, other webinars and other explanations on the details of these products. Today we're just going to be focusing on how to build the actual solution. Another part of that solution is also the streaming part. I know Roland is working on some solutions as well that will incorporate streaming inside of the video mixers. Morten's going to be talking about that as well. But we at Avonic, we have our own live streaming and encoder, single channel HDMI SDI streamer, which is compatible with YouTube, Facebook Live, and most of the streaming platforms out there. From a general perspective, a little bit probably with the camera angle in mind, because that is what we think about daily here. So what are kind of like the points you need to be aware of when you start specifying streaming solutions? For camera perspective, of course, the room lighting. Of course, a church has a very different lighting situation than a webinar studio like this with a lot of lights. Be aware of that. It does affect the quality of the end result. Also the distance, so where are you able to physically place a camera? In a studio, it's very flexible because it's in a tripod. In a church or a bigger venue, it's usually limited to where you can actually position the camera. So it's important to know the distance, because then you know how much zoom you actually need. Of course, connectivity, so how are you connecting to the next step in the chain? So how are you connecting to the video mixer? Are you doing that over SDI or HDMI? How are you doing the control, serial or IP? All these things are important to figure out way ahead of time. IP standards and control are becoming more and more important. There's a lot of course, streaming directly or AV over IP solutions that are on the market, but also from a control perspective. You need to check what controller you're using. So if you're using a dedicated controller, if you're using the video mixer with built-in control from Roland, for instance, verify that everything works together. And of course, today with Roland, that is for sure that it works together very well, but it's important to look at that. From that perspective, also interoperability, and interoperability is also the reason why we at Avonic are fundamental believers in the technology partnerships. We partner with companies, and basically our commitment to the market is we will jointly fix issues if they arise. And I think that's the thing that's very comfortable for integrators and resellers to know. If there is an issue with any combination with Roland and Avonic, we will help you. And that is why interoperability is very important. And also, not really our specialty, but we do know a little bit about it. The audio side of it, of course, make sure that you use the proper microphones. If you want to use a small microphone like this one, if you want to use like a more dedicated microphone or ambience microphones, all these things are important. And all these factors together will also determine how you actually build the system. A typical example of a streaming solution, basically you can see the cameras. Can either be fixed cameras or 12, 20 or 30 times zoom cameras. They are controlled through a Visca over IP or over serial with in this case, the Avonic CON300 IP controller. You can see there's a laptop as a source, and we've got microphones as sources. In this situation, there's a separate video mixer and a separate audio mixer plus a separate encoder. This is actually the Avonic REC200, which you can stream to YouTube and Facebook Live. This is a pretty common setup for streaming nowadays. And to prove that, this is kind of the result of that. And this is a perfectly fine installation, right? It provides a lot of flexibility. But if we look back at the picture that we just looked at, these three elements can actually be combined. And that's also the key of today's presentation for us. To simplify the installation, to make it easier for the users to control, and also to not stretch the budget too far, you can actually put the audio mixing, the video mixing, and the control into one single device. And that's also the point where I want to kind of return to Morten Rasmussen, the EU product manager at Roland. I think this is, Morten, this is what we like about your products, right? It's the video and audio and the control part combined. So basically, without further ado, I kind of want to hand it over to you to tell us a little bit more about Roland and your products for streaming.
Thank you very much. And exactly, that's the point of our product. In a very small footprint to keep all the functionality together, to keep the video switching, the audio control, also the audio processing in terms of adjusting delay and making that perfect to the image, as well as, of course, sending the signal out. That could be, in this case, for the V60, that could be out to an encoder unit like the one that Avonic is producing. So, excuse me, the product that we are focusing on today is the V60 HD, which is a 6-channel switcher. It's kind of a complete solution because this very small unit holds a 6-channel video switcher, although there are 8 cross points at the switcher. The 2 last ones are for still images and some background. So it integrates audio and video with preamps and all that on the audio side. You have all the control that you need actually in order to run a full show at a very small footprint. So these are basically the first point about the product. If we look at the connections, I will not go through all of it, but you can see a variety of audio inputs. We have the preamps, we have SDI and HDMI inputs, as well as a single RGB as well, combined with a set of outputs, both SDI and HDMI. We have balanced output for the audio. We have some control and some tally, some GPI inputs. And of course, for this application, the most important is the connection to LAN and the ability to both control our unit, but also take control of PTC cameras. Morten, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So basically, what I'm understanding, like from the console side, of course, the video mixer can control the PTZ cameras, right? We've talked about that, but you can also have a third-party control system such as Crestron or AMX or Needs or Q or whatever our attendees are using. You can also control it externally. Yes, all the parameters in our device are accessible from LAN, so you have a complete control of the unit. You could also, of course, just choose the selected parameters that you want to integrate in your installation and just specify those parameters. But any combination, actually, what's great here is that we're not limited to just controlling from one type and limited to that. So we can combine the remote control with the PTC control that we are sending out, as well as both GPI and RS-232. So all the integration parts and the remote control options are available at once. So that's an important point. As well as, of course, as you say, integrating with other hardware manufacturers that are producing controllers for install.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say is, like, of course we see a lot of video mixers, right? Being a camera manufacturer, we see a lot of video mixers, and one thing that seems to be a little different from what you guys are doing is the actual ability to have the third-party control systems, while a lot of others don't seem to be doing that. Are we seeing that? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we definitely want to open up our products and make them accessible from both hardware side and software side, and any combination with other hardware. That's very important for us. Um, because of course we know that our product is just that uh, brick in the middle. So we're not producing full systems. We're not producing cameras or video walls or projectors. So we are that bit in the middle that needs to be able to connect with both input sources and output sources, as well as remote control units. So connectivity and opening up to third-party companies, that's definitely been a very, very important point for Roland over the past years.
And I think you have a slide further on which will actually prove the installer focus that you have as well. So
Yeah,
that's kind of what I get from your philosophy, is that it's really next to just being a live or event-based product, it is also very much focused on the installing part of the market, which is good probably for most of the people that are watching today.
yeah. Just to clarify, this setup, how you connect, just to demystify that it's not that complicated. So what are we? Although there are a lot of connections in this slide, I admit, but basically, this setup is just showing that you can actually connect up to 6 PTZ cameras, 4 of them using SDI and 2 using HDMI, because that's the architecture we have designed the V60 specifically. So that's just the video incoming from the cameras. Next, you need to control the PTZ cameras, and that is the LAN connection that goes into a hub, and then a LAN cable back to the PTZ camera. And you can, as I showed, you can combine that with either our remote software on a Windows or Mac computer, and at the same time actually add the Avonic's controller, hardware controller, if you want to do something like following a person on stage, or controlling live with a joystick, which is of course much more comfortable with a controller.
Yeah.
Zooming in a bit on how you're doing things, the point of integration is actually making presets either directly on our unit or using our remote control software. So you see at the top the choice of 6 cameras, and for each you have 8 presets. So these are individual per camera. You of course set up your position and your focus and your exposure, and of course you can adjust the speed of how fast the camera should react to the incoming control positioner. And from that point on, you just click on each of the cameras and produce presets. And these presets again can be part of the more overall complete presets in the V60 HD switcher. So ideally, you should end up with a situation where you just press one memory position, and then all the cameras change positions and presets, and then the actual operation is very, 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 very simple.
So in that way, you can kind of, like when you have really predefined sequences, right? So some event is completely unscripted. Other events are, well, not scripted, but they have a certain sequence of doing things. And that means that with these presets, you can basically just automate this and make this very, very easy to use.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the point. That's actually something that we are looking into very carefully when we're producing new products, because basically when you look at our products, we try to take out all unnecessary buttons away from the product, because it is supposed to be operated by people that are not necessarily technicians. So always when you look at our products, they are much more simple on the surface than they actually are. So there are many hidden menus and many, well, not hidden, but they are sort of in a menu structure, so that you can go many steps deeper than what you exactly see on the surface of our products. So that's a very important thing for our development of new products. What we are looking at here is basically a rack version of the V60 HD. So if you are if you want to install that and put the switcher away, you can actually do that, and you can again operate this unit from a software, from our remote software that comes for free. And as well as with the V60 HD, you can connect up to 6 cameras, same control idea and same combination of controllability from external devices. This firmware will be released later this month. They are working hard on finalizing the software for this one. And that will be released on our webpage late May.
So this is probably like for the Pro AV space. This is more like it is a video mixer, but it probably feels like it's more a replacement for a seamless switching matrix switcher.
You could say that. It actually operates exactly like the switcher, but of course it is thought as layout-wise also as a 6x2 matrix switcher as well. So there are a little bit other functionality in the XS62 that is pointed at a matrix setup. True. The other products that I want to highlight is our streaming switcher or AV switcher. This is our VR50 Mark II, and this came out last summer, as a replacement for the much older VR50 HD. So this is the Mark II version, and this one added actually functions like the ability to control via LAN and connect PTC camera control as well. So this one, at this just as the V60 HD, is able to control 6 cameras. The control surface looks very much the same, because what we are doing is actually taking the same part of the software and transform that into each of the devices that holds the ability to control cameras. This unit has a touch screen and a built-in advanced audio mixer in very high quality. So there are lots of more options in this one, keeping everything together. On the streaming side, which is a little bit different than the encoding device that Avonic is producing, is that we are streaming directly to USB 3, meaning that the encoding process is done in the computer which is connected. Of course, you can take the either SDI or HDMI signal directly from the unit and stream that to an encoding unit. But the idea is that you connect this unit directly to the computer, and this one acts as if it was a webcam. So you don't need to install anything on your computer. It just directly connects to any software on your computer. And one of the strengths are that you can actually run multiple instances at the same time. So you can have a recording application as well as a streaming application at the same time running on the same computer. So this software is coming July 2020. So very soon as well. The last product I want to highlight is that we have a 4K HDI multi-format video switcher, next level, you could say. And this unit was also sent to market last year. and we have had several updates to the firmware along the way, which is actually what we're doing, getting some feedback from the market and making sure that functionality is updated, features are added, and in this case, the camera control feature will be added, also available in July to this product.
Okay. Morten, when I was watching your slides, like one of the questions, and we get that question pretty often as well, is about 4K versus Full HD setups. If you look at your sales in Europe, how is that progressing? Of course, there's no discussion about is a 4K resolution better than an HD resolution, but there's always still the question: is this the time to invest in 4K cameras and 4K video mixers and infrastructure, or is it still a little bit away?
Yeah, I think we are in the middle of that situation, basically, because our switcher is able to take your current HD equipment and upscale that. We have very high quality scalers in our V600 UHD, and that takes care of the upscaling of any camera that is connected in HD, or computers that are running lower resolution that is scaled up as well. So you can combine that with a single 4K camera, so you can do it like step by step, this process. I would say that from a quality point of view, it's always good to have a very good source of input, because you can do stuff like zooming into regions of the image. So instead of having more cameras placed, you can actually use the same camera, at least if you are streaming in HD or streaming in lower resolution, that basically highest resolution.
Yeah.
Then you can actually use what we call the region of interest. So you take parts out of a total shot.
Yeah.
So
well, I totally agree with you. We're seeing that this demand as well. We are currently in the process of developing our own 4K PTZ camera. The only thing is we kind of skipped the 4K 30 development because we didn't believe 4K 30 was going to be the solution for 4K. So we actually are a little bit later to market probably, but 4K 60 was the way to go for us. Absolutely. Exactly. Morten, one question that I think this is probably an answer you can dream, but hardware versus software for video switching. How does that compare to each other?
Yeah. Well, what we experience is that for the user, and especially for the non-experienced user, hardware is definitely a good choice because of the reliability as well. You have a very smooth operation, and the tactile operation is a very good solution for that kind of user. So it depends on the application and what you're working with. But definitely, if you are the more average, from a technical point of view, more average kind of user, I'm thinking about normal conferences or normal house of worship applications, where we don't necessarily find an expert as an operator. I would definitely go for hardware in that.
Yeah, I probably couldn't agree with you more. We get the question pretty often with our encoder, REC200 live streaming encoder as well. And the question is like, well, I can use this software tool which is available on my PC, but then the question is where are you going to put it, right? The church is a good example, right? In the church, that's typically a touchscreen. You just want to start everything, and then everything needs to work. And with a PC, there's always these like updates and all these other things to worry about. Next from also some security issues potentially, because a dedicated device is always going to be more secure than standard hardware, right? So it's actually also the fact that
you end up with, if you have a software solution, you end up with a lot of small devices anyway. So you need a capture device, you need some extra hardware for your computer, which already there doesn't really appeal to the non-technical user. So that's what we have taken out of this. We have everything in one unit. Basically, of course, we have different lineup with different weight on the audio and the video capabilities, but basically having everything in one box simplifies your total setup.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like our focus really being the installation world and not so much like the live event business, for instance, it makes a lot of sense, right? In the integration world, you want to build systems that are reliable, that are interoperable with each other, that are controllable by third-party systems, etc. So it makes a lot of sense to select hardware for most of the applications, to be honest. Morten, I wanted to thank you for your time. Thank you for your presentation. I think that definitely provided some insights for us. Again, thanks for your time. And if there's anything in the near future that is worth sharing again, then of course we want to welcome you with one of our next webinars.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Okay. Yeah. Morten Rasmussen is the EU product manager for Roland Pro AV. Hopefully some insights on the streaming philosophy that Roland has for video mixing, audio mixing, and the streaming part. I just wanted to summarize for you a couple of takeaway points from today's webinar. There's a lot of information in here. First of all, streaming. There's a very wide range of applications, varying from conferencing to house of worship. There's a lot of different applications, and in this time, the situation in the world streaming, the demand for streaming is higher than ever. Our Avonic CM40 cameras, which are I would say the entry-level cameras, and the CM70 series PTZ cameras are ideal for live streaming and for webinar studios, all the streaming applications you can think of. For the actual live streaming, you can use the REC200 encoder as a hardware solution. Roland is coming up with some solutions inside of their video mixers as well. And they are planning definitely some future updates to their platforms to incorporate even more control for instance, Avonic PTZ cameras, which is definitely a good thing. And like I said, Roland offers the ability to control their systems externally through Crestron, Needs, AMX, Q, whatever control system you're using. And especially with fixed installations, this is a very, very key element. This is the reason why we're using matrix switches in some applications instead of a video mixer. And this allows you to kind of combine the best of both worlds. To summarize, Avonic and Roland Pro AV are technology partners. This means is that you can rest assured when you deploy a Roland video mixing solution or video switcher solution together with Avonic cameras, and there are any issues, you can call us, you can call Roland, and both of us will do our utmost to support you. So we're committed to the support part, which is very important. A recording of today will be made available to all the attendees. Also, the Q&A will be summarized, of course, and we will send that to you as well. If you want to learn more about Avonic solutions or other technology partners that we work with, please go to our YouTube channel. Of course, if you want to know more about our products, feel free to go to our website, avonic.eu, or contact your local reseller or distributor. We're in 30 countries right now, so all in all, it should be fine to find that information. For now, I wanted to thank you for joining, and I hope to see you soon at one of our other webinars.